Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Cardano and its native token ADA. Specifically, we're going to be putting our on-chain hat back on and diving into the on-chain metrics for ADA. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So recently, if you haven't followed up on some of the more recent videos, we've been looking into on-chain data. And the reason was because, I really thought it would be useful for this channel in terms of thinking how can we grow it in 2022. Obviously, it's grown a lot from 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I wanted to make it, I wanted to add something for 2022. And so what we're adding is on-chain analysis. And as always, one caveat with on-chain analysis is that it could easily be manipulated by someone if they just wanted to start using a ton of addresses just for the heck of it. They could easily do that, and then it would show up on this chart. All right. So do keep that in mind. But with that disclaimer, let's go ahead and dive in. So specifically in this video, we're going to be looking in trends in wallet sizes. So basically, how many addresses are holding at least a certain amount of ADA. All right. So clearly the first chart, you're looking here at the price, the blue line corresponding to the primary y-axis, and then the orange line corresponding to the secondary y-axis over here. So you can see this is the address count, and this goes from 0 all the way up. This is 500,000, a million, and so on and so forth. Right. So one of the interesting things that I think that we can discuss here is what are the trends as we increase the required ADA to show up on this chart? Well, if you just look at basically a wallet that has 0.001 ADA, it's a general uptrend, but this isn't really that surprising, right? I mean, a 0.001 ADA is a fairly inconsequential amount of ADA to have in a wallet. And you'll actually see the same thing with 0.01 ADA, 0.1 ADA, and also 1 ADA. Doesn't really change a whole lot. So we're not going to really spend a whole lot of time on the smaller amounts because it looks the same as 1 ADA. So the number of wallets holding at least 1 ADA has actually increased quite a bit from about a year ago. About a year ago, there was about 550,000 wallets holding at least 1 ADA. And today, you can see that there's about 3.18 million wallets. So, I mean, you're talking about an increase of about 6x the amount of wallets today that hold at least 1 ADA compared to a year ago at the same time. So basically, wallets are being created, wallets are being used. Obviously, some of that is new people coming in. That doesn't mean that the wallet only has 1 ADA. It just means it has to have 1 ADA or more. So what it does is it basically, it helps to remove the noise of wallets that hold, say, 1/1000th of an ADA. So if you look at this, you can see this corresponds to about 3.18 million. If you were to allow for any wallets holding at least 0.001 ADA, it would actually go up to around 3.25 million. So there's a little bit there holding between 0.001 ADA and 1 ADA. Now, going back to 1 ADA, this is what it looks like. So a fairly general uptrend. Nice uptrend here. Bit of a cool off phase back in the summer. Obviously, a lot of things cooled off back then. And then another continued increase. And then it's been increasing ever since. Note that the pace at which it's increasing has slowed down a little bit as this downtrend has continued. Probably a lot of retail investors are becoming exhausted, right? I mean, and this is one of the things that we've talked about before, and this is one of the things I warned about at the beginning of the year, or sorry, not this year, but the year before, is that we saw ADA go up from 2 cents to $1 relatively quickly, and we said back then, look, there's a good chance we could see, a very long period where the valuation of ADA just goes sideways. And one of the reasons we said that is for a couple of reasons, right? Well, first of all, the idea of lengthened cycles, and then second of all, just looking at what Ethereum did during the last market cycle, we saw Ethereum go sideways for a year at one point and then for a half a year at another point. And so, it went sideways after going up significantly. And so, for ADA to go up from 2 cents to $1, and then to just kind of hold that more or less for about a year is fairly impressive. I mean, you're talking about a 50x move that it's still holding on to. This is what it looks like for one ADA, but why don't we increase it to a little bit more than that? So we're going to increase it by orders of magnitude. So now we're talking about wallets that hold at least 10 ADA, all right? And at the current valuation of ADA, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, of course, it's over $10, about $12 or so, depending on how many pennies right after the dollar it is. I don't know what it is right now, but probably around 125 or something like that. So, with that in mind, you come over here and say, well, does the trend look any different between, say, 1 ADA and 10? And not really. What you will notice, though, is the number of addresses goes down significantly from about 3.18 million down to about 2.25 million. You might say, well, this looks higher up on the chart. Well, the y-axis changed, right? The secondary y-axis changed. So this is up to 2.25 million. And what you'll notice, again, is that during the summer lull that we talked about before, we actually saw on-chain activity drop down a little bit as well. This picked back up after this period, right? This picked back up. And despite the fact that we've had another downtrend, which was actually worse than this one, the number of wallets holding at least 10 ADA continues to go up. So there is at least, an argument to be made that there are, more wallets are being created. Obviously, we don't necessarily know if it's by new people or if it's just, the same people creating more wallets. That's hard to know, right? We don't know that, but you can at least see that there are more wallets that are now holding 10 ADA than basically any time before. And a stark comparison would be to say, go back to, really, if you go back a few years, the valuation of ADA at its peak in 2017, 2018, it actually hit it in 2018. It's not really that far away from the current price. Arguably, it's around the current price. But the main difference today than back then is look at how different the wallets were. The number of wallets holding 10 ADA. Back then, at the peak, there were only about 105,000 wallets holding at least 10 ADA. At the same price, more or less, but 4 years later, you have about 2.25 million wallets holding at least 10 ADA. So you're talking a factor. From the peak here at least, you're talking about a factor of about 20 or so to go from about 100,000 to about 2 million. And if you go before the peak, obviously it was even a lot less than that, really early on when we don't even actually have really reliable price data. So interesting to see this drop off during the summer lull and then continue to increase. And one of the things I think is that, there probably was a lot of retail that bought in over here and then they just sold everything. And because they realize they're not really cut out for as big of changes or the volatility that the cryptoverse offers us. I mean, Bitcoin went down 55% in the summer. And I mean, ADA dropped all the way from about, if we go to the peak here, or at least that local top that we saw, we went over $2 and then it dropped all the way back down to really less than $1. So a pretty substantial drop for ADA. I'm guessing that during that time, a lot of newer investors sort of just sold off their ADA and then moved on. But that doesn't just go for ADA. We've seen a lot of this stuff on-chain metrics on other cryptocurrencies as well. I think it's fairly natural that when you get a fairly nice run up in the price, you're going to have a lot of retail FOMO in, and then the ones that, there's going to be some people that just don't want to stick around because they can't handle the volatility. That's not necessarily a bad thing, just recognizing that they can't handle it and they move on to maybe a different asset class or something. But notably, you see a cool off phase here, not here, we're still in full gear. But let's actually change it up because 10 ADA is still a relatively small amount of ADA, right? You're talking about $12 worth of ADA at least. It doesn't mean that all of these wallets have $12. Some of them would probably have $100,000 worth of ADA in their wallet, but it's just a greater than 10 ADA. Let's go to 100 ADA. You see a fairly similar story, but the difference here is we're going from 2.25 million wallets holding at least 10 ADA to around 1.5 million wallets holding at least 100 ADA. So a difference of approximately 700,000 wallets. So there's about 700,000 wallets that hold somewhere between 10 and 100 ADA because they don't show up when you look at wallets that hold at least 100 ADA. So a fairly large number of wallets that are holding, between 10 and 100 ADA. But again, when you look at this, you see a fairly similar trend, a nice uptick here, a nice angle of attack going into this major price discovery mode. It dropped a bit and leveled off going into the summer final period of the summer lull, and then it's actually been continuing to increase ever since, despite the fact that this drop has actually been worse than this one. You can see the number of wallets that hold at least 100 ADA continue to go up. All right, let's continue on. Let's look at 1,000 ADA. So now we're actually, this is a consequential amount of ADA, right? You're talking about, investors that are holding, approximately $1,200 worth of ADA in their wallet. And I mean, again, that's not a small amount of ADA, right? I mean, that still is a decent number, a decent investment by a lot of people that they're holding at least 1,000 ADA in their wallet. And what you'll notice is the difference here between wallets that hold at least 100 ADA is, again, it's about 1.5 million. If you go to at least 1,000 ADA, you're looking at around 610,000. So about a 900,000 wallet difference between, say, 100 ADA to 1,000 ADA. So what does that mean? That means about 900,000 wallets hold somewhere between 100 to 1,000 ADA in that wallet. So a fairly large number there that are in that range. And then if you look at this, you'll see a nice angle of attack going into this price discovery mode again. We're seeing a similar trend here, a drop off during the final period of the summer lull, and then a continued increase, and even still increasing, although very slightly here at the end. I mean, it's not going up that significantly right now, but it is still slightly going up. Even as the price has continued to come down, which is still a bit of a difference than this one. One thing to mention, though, that is I think it's at least worthwhile, is to note that this drop off here didn't come until really that final capitulation before we actually started moving higher again. Okay, and so you could argue that during this entire move down, we were in an uptrend until the final capitulation, and then the uptrend started again. And so, it's certainly possible we could see something like that again. I mean, a lot of this is just going to be dependent on what Bitcoin does, as we know. I mean, the altcoin market, to a large extent, is very dependent on what Bitcoin does. Now, if Bitcoin's going sideways, we know that the rest of the market can move without Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin's dropping quickly, then rest assured most of the market will be dropping quickly. So if Bitcoin were to go back to 40K, or if it loses 40K as support or something, then of course ADA will go to lower prices more than likely than it currently is today. And you might see it. You might see another drop off like this before resuming another uptrend. So something to keep in mind. So the trend does slightly change as we get into larger wallets holding at least certain amounts of ADA. So up until this point, we can see that it's been going up, okay, for quite a long period of time. And in even the wallets that hold at least 1,000 ADA, at the peak in 2018, you can see that it was only about 65,000 wallets. Today, we're talking about 610,000 wallets. So despite the fact that the price is the same that it was 4 years ago at basically this exact same time, you have an order of magnitude more wallets holding at least 1,000 ADA. Now, continuing on, we're going to go to 10,000 ADA. And what you see here is a nice uptrend, especially in the bear market, right? Especially in the bear market. It was a nice uptrend in the bear market. And this was heavy accumulation down here. And on this channel back in 2019, we said many, many times that if you guys go back, it seems silly now that I think about it, but I kept saying back then, ADA is a great buy up to 10 cents. Let me know if you guys remember those videos. But I just kept saying, I think ADA was a great buy up to 10 cents. We said, was it 2 cents, at 3 cents, at 4 cents? I still remember some of the commenters saying on that final rally, they got it to 10 cents and then it started to really move. They kept saying, I'll just wait, it's going to dump back down to 2 cents. And then it never did, right? It actually just kept going up. I still remember those comments from some of those first videos. But you can see heavy accumulation during the bear market. And I think a lot of this accumulation is really by the people who got interested in crypto potentially at the very end of 2017, early 2018. And they liked what ADA was doing. And despite the fact that it dropped from over like about $1.38 all the way down to 2 cents, they just continued to accumulate. And you can see that the number of wallets holding at least 10,000 ADA, I mean, it very quickly rose from the peak of around 36,000 wallets to then by the end of the bear market, by say the March 2020 capitulation, I mean, really it was over here, you could argue, 67,000 wallets. So from 37,000 to about 67,000. But then actually we went to a lower price over here. And by that time, there were approximately 88,000 wallets holding at least 10,000 ADA. And then when ADA went into this price discovery mode, you can see a lot more wallets came into the scene that held at least 10,000 ADA. And again, today, 10,000 ADA is corresponding to more or less around $12,000 or so. So this is a significant amount of money, right? It's not a small amount of money. And then it went up. And then what do you notice? So you notice a different trend here than on the smaller wallets. So here it's actually been slightly going down some, okay? And I mean, it's not a significant amount, but it is there. And I mean, I'm going to show you guys the data. I don't control what it is. I just tell you what it is. And just so you know, you can see that there seems to be like a peak here in the number of wallets holding at least 10,000 ADA of approximately 157,000 wallets. And then since then, it's dropped slightly down to 146,000. So it's dropped by about 10,000 wallets over the last year. But I mean, I think it makes sense, to be completely honest. The price hasn't done anything for about a year. I mean, look, we've gone to $2, we've gone to $3, but we've also spent a lot of time at $1, $1.50. Not a whole lot has happened, right? Not a whole lot has happened. And this is one of the things we said when we put out a video over here. We said a realistic price prediction is actually for us to go sideways for a while and then hopefully trend up later on, because you have to basically contend with the fact that we had a major move up, a 50x move up. We actually need to get used to those prices before I think the market actually accepts it as a fair valuation. And so since that time, I mean, the number of wallets has dropped by about 10,000, holding at least 10,000 ADA. Now, something to keep in mind is that, it could be for a number of reasons, right? It could be because some people that bought ADA over here, they've just decided to move on because they've become uninterested. That's obviously one reason. Another reason could just simply be that they've decided to spread their ADA around several different wallets. So maybe they have 10,000 ADA, but then they decided they want to put some ADA in one wallet over here, and then other ADA in a different wallet entirely. So there could be some of that going on as well. But that's what the trend shows, right? This is what the trend shows, is that the number of wallets holding at least 10,000 ADA over the last year has been very, very slightly decreasing. But to be completely honest, I don't think it's that surprising, considering that $12,000 is a lot of money to put in a cryptocurrency, and if it's just going sideways for a year, there are going to be people that lose interest and just simply move on. That's just the way it is. Okay. And then 100,000 ADA, you see a more pronounced version, right? So I mean, you're talking about 10,000 ADA, it's a slight decrease. Wallets holding at least 100,000 ADA has come down significantly. Okay, so at the prices at the 2018 market cycle top, you can see there were about 20,000 wallets that had at least 100,000 ADA, about 20,000 wallets. Many years later, there's about 24 to 25,000 wallets holding at least that amount of ADA. But what's interesting is, you see a fairly interesting trend here, right? I mean, it came up a lot. We had some massive drop here by about 5,000 wallets. I'm sure there's an explanation. But then it continued to move up for a while, going into price discovery mode, a lot of people accumulating and likely getting a fairly large position in ADA. And then since then, this dropped off a lot. I mean, you're talking about at the peak here, at least in on-chain for wallets, over 31,000 wallets held at least 100,000 ADA. That's a lot of wallets, right? 31,000 wallets holding at least 100,000 ADA. And then since then, it's dropped by about 6,000 wallets. And it's still continuing to drop. And, I would argue that as long as the price is not back in price discovery mode, I don't know that we're going to necessarily see this trend immediately change. I mean, you can see that the downtrend was a bit steeper over here. And probably some of it was people chasing other coins, right? Like, especially if someone rode this move up, Maybe they then went to go chase a different cryptocurrency for a while. Possibility, right? Certainly a possibility. The angle of descent here was fairly steep, and then it's not as steep as it was over here, but you can still see it is technically in a downtrend, and we've been losing a few wallets here and there. I mean, this is from about 1,000 wallets holding at least 100,000 ADA over the last, say, 4 or 5 months or so. All right, so something to keep in mind. And then finally, we're going to look at wallet addresses holding at least 1 million ADA, and that's what it looks like actually. So a nice move down here, and then it leveled off during the bear market. It went up during the price discovery phase. It pulled back, and then it's actually starting to level off again, where it currently is. And it's currently leveled off here at around 3.17 thousand wallets. So just over 3,000 wallets holding at least 1 million ADA, which is actually less than it was back in the bear market. To be completely honest, I think that makes sense. I just tell it like it is, right? Back over here for wallets, to get to a million ADA, I mean, while it still was a lot of money, ADA was trading at pennies. Okay, so it took a lot less capital to get to a million ADA, especially if you were an investor back then and you wanted to buy ADA and you were a very, very serious investor and you really believed in the future of ADA and you had the capital, someone might be able to do that. Today, if you're a very serious investor, to have a 1 million ADA in your wallet, you're talking about needing at least $1.2 million. So it's a lot harder today than it was back then. I mean, back then, you would have only needed, at some of these low, at one point it was trading for 2 cents, right? It was trading for 2 cents. So, if we just say that the price today is $1 and you have, and let's say it takes about to get a million ADA, it takes about $1 million. If it's trading at 1 penny or 1/100th, then it would only take $10,000 to get to a million ADA. So you can see the distinction, right? I mean, a couple years ago, it would have only taken $10,000 to accumulate a million ADA. Today, it would take $1 million to accumulate, more than $1 million to accumulate a million ADA. And really back then, it never really hit a penny. I think it hit 0.017 at one point. So probably it would have taken closer to $20,000 as some of the lower levels that it hit to get to a million ADA. But it was still doable by certain people, right? It was still something that could theoretically be achieved if you were DCAing consistently throughout the entire bear market. It was certainly achieved by a significant number of people. And so there's a good chance some of them took profits. But furthermore, what's also likely is that it's just a lot harder today that, even if people believe in what ADA is doing, it's going to be a lot harder to get to a million ADA just because it costs so much more money, right? You're talking about over $1 million. And so we've seen this back in a downtrend. And actually recently it's starting to level off. And in the last couple of days, it looks like it's actually started slightly going up again. From a local bottom of maybe about 3.14 thousand wallets holding a 1 million ADA. And then now it's up to about 3.17 thousand wallets holding at least a million ADA. So it has gone up a little bit over the last few weeks, which is somewhat interesting. Note that could just be noise as well. We've seen slight moves to the upside, but we haven't seen a significant one. And I think this stuff is at least worth watching because over the next several months, if we start to see the number of wallets holding at least 1 million ADA start to go back up, like it did over here, then that could be indicative of a major move coming. And you can see the number of wallets holding at least 1 million ADA increased significantly, headed out of this accumulation phase. And then once it started to really go up, the number of wallets holding 1 million ADA started to really go down. Okay, so basically, I think what you can learn from this is that some of the people that were accumulating through here into this uptrend started taking some profits up over here, especially the ones with over 1 million ADA. Look, I hope this content is useful to you. If you guys like the content, remember to subscribe. We do have ITC stake pools into the Cryptoverse stake pools, so make sure you guys go stake your ADA with ITC. There's 3 stake pools currently: ITC, ITC2, and ITC3. Obviously, if you're staked there, and you're earning rewards, you are also going to be eligible for the Sunday Swap ISO. So make sure you guys go check that out. I'll leave a reminder, comment, and in the description below about that. So do go check that out. Also, we do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. You'll get access to these charts, as well as a lot of other charts on chain for not only ADA, but for a lot of different cryptocurrencies. And then furthermore, in addition to this, I mean, we also have a lot of on-chain metrics for ADA besides just this one. So lots to take in this video. Hopefully it was useful. For the 5 people that stuck around for the whole video, I thank you. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell icon to turn on notifications, and I will see you next time. Bye.